You were never meant to understand the system, just to move inside it, obediently, silently. Every paycheck you earn, every loan you take, every hour you spend online, it's all feeding a machine. A machine designed not to help you, but to use you. You think you're free because you can choose your job, your phone, your next vacation. But what if I told you those choices are the cage? Today, you'll see what they never wanted you to notice. And once you see the gears turning, you can't unsee them. The system didn't evolve, it was engineered. In July 1944, while bombs still fell and nations bled, 730 delegates from 44 countries slipped away from the battlefield and into a hotel in the mountains. The Mount Washington Hotel, quiet and secluded, became the most powerful room on Earth, not because of weapons, but because of what was written there. Behind those closed doors, they weren't signing peace. They were designing the architecture of control. What emerged wasn't just an agreement, it was a blueprint, not of borders, but of money, not of armies, but of currencies. They called it the Bretton Woods Agreement, a name you were never meant to remember, but one that decided everything from your mortgage rate to the price of your groceries. From that moment, money stopped being neutral. It became strategic. It became geopolitical, a tool not of exchange, but of influence, and often coercion. The US dollar was elevated to the center of the financial universe, not because it was stable, not because it was trusted, but because the United States had the largest stockpile of gold. And when gold was power, America became untouchable. But it wasn't just about dollars, it was about dominance, embedded into law, wrapped in diplomacy, and presented as cooperation. Weeks later, two institutions were born from that same pen, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. They arrived dressed as saviors, but beneath the suits, they carried chains. The IMF would oversee the movement of money between nations, always watching, always negotiating. The World Bank would lend to developing countries while subtly shaping their policies, their laws, even their elections. Imagine it. Two hands offering help while the fingers slowly close into a fist. They called it stabilization. In reality, it was control, disguised as support. And while the public applauded global unity, a new kind of empire was taking form, one with no flags, no armies, no borders, just contracts, clauses, and conditions. Currencies were no longer local expressions of value. They were strings, and whoever held them pulled nations like puppets. Then came the cracks. As international trade exploded, the world demanded more dollars, but America couldn't print gold. Its reserves thinned, and pressure mounted. Until 1971, President Nixon did the unthinkable. He severed the dollar from gold entirely. Just like that, the last anchor was gone. Money was now floating, backed by nothing but faith and fear. The labyrinth shifted, but its foundations, still intact, still invisible, still binding. This isn't ancient history. It's the air around your finances. It's the unseen code running beneath your economy, your job, your debts, your retirement. All of it still playing by rules written in that hotel room. And then there's Harry Dexter White, the quiet architect behind it all, a U.S. Treasury economist with unmatched influence and a legacy clouded by accusations of espionage. Some say he was playing both sides. Others say he was just playing the long game. Either way, the result was the same, a system designed to appear fair while moving wealth upward and outward. Picture the architecture, a marble hallway that seems pristine until you notice the tilt. Every policy, every crisis, every bailout flowing in one direction. Most people never feel the tilt. They just walk, pay, borrow, work, and never wonder why it always feels like they're walking uphill. But now you've seen the floor plans. A like on this video doesn't change the algorithm. It sends a message to the machine, to the watchers behind the glass, that someone is watching back. And the moment you start watching, the walls begin to flicker. So ask yourself, if one closed-door meeting could redraw the rules of the world, how many more meetings have rewritten your future? And if the first door was so well hidden, what else haven't you seen? The next corridor leads deeper, and what waits there was designed to keep you running forever. They told you hard work was the way out, that success was just a matter of discipline. Set your alarm, follow the rules, climb the ladder. But what if the ladder was rigged? What if it wasn't leaning against a wall, but spinning in a circle? The system doesn't punish laziness, it punishes awareness. Because when you start to see the design, work feels different. It starts early. You're taught that grades lead to jobs, and jobs lead to freedom. But no one mentions the debt waiting behind the diploma, or the taxes deducted before you ever touch your paycheck, or the invisible percentage of your life being sold 1 hour at a time. This is the illusion. You think you're building a future, but you're renting your time to maintain someone else's. And here's the most elegant part of the trap. You were never forced. You were convinced. The average person works 90,000 hours in a lifetime. That's over 10 years, non-stop. But for what? A mortgage that takes 30? A retirement plan that gets postponed every decade? A vacation once a year that feels like temporary parole? Meanwhile, productivity has exploded. We're faster, smarter, more connected. And yet, your buying power has shrunk. Your savings are thinner. Your margin for error microscopic. Wages have flatlined. Inflation eats from your plate. And the gap between effort and reward, wider than ever. Where did all the extra value go? Not to your bank account, not to your time, and definitely not to your freedom. It was captured by entities you'll never meet, incentives you never chose, rules you didn't vote for. You're not in the economy. You are the economy. And here's the trick. When the engine fails, the system blames the parts, not the design, not the operator, you. You're told to work harder, study more, sleep less. Grind now, rest later. But later never comes. It's always moved one promotion away, one certification, one sacrifice. You internalize the weight, and you keep running, because standing still feels like weakness. They never had to chain your hands, just your mind. And that's the brilliance of it. The more exhausted you are, the less you question the machine. The more you chase, the less you notice you're being hunted. But there's one question that breaks the spell. If working more made people free, why are the hardest working people the most trapped? There are 168 hours in a week. If you sleep 56 and work 50, you have 62 left. But where do they go? They vanish into screens, into deadlines, into worry, into silence. Because you're not just trading time for money, you're trading presence for pressure, joy for duty, autonomy for structure. But now you're starting to see the engine behind the treadmill. You're seeing that it doesn't stop when you get tired. It stops when you step off. And when you do, you'll want a map. You'll want silence. You'll want truth. That's why this channel exists. Not to entertain you, to arm you. So if you're ready to stop running blind, hit subscribe. Because the next part isn't about motion, it's about money, and how they invented debt to make sure you'd never stop running. Debt was never meant to help you, it was meant to own you. The system realized something centuries ago. You don't need chains if people chain themselves. And the easiest way to do that is with credit. It begins with small promises, a student loan to invest in your future, a credit card to build your score, a mortgage to build equity. Sounds empowering until you realize each signature is a silent surrender. Because now, you're not just working to live, you're working to repay, working for something you already consumed, the future mortgaged to the past. That's the trap. Credit makes time feel expandable, but it isn't. And when that illusion shatters, the interest begins. Debt grows like shadow, quiet at first, then multiplying, until your income isn't income anymore. It's rent paid to the past version of you. You pay for the car, then pay to fix it, then pay to keep it, all while paying for the next one. You pay for the degree, then for the years it takes to justify it, and by the time you do, the market has already moved on. You pay for the house, but it owns your stress, your weekends, your decisions. They say, buy now, pay later, but you never stop paying. And what's worse, you're told it's your fault, that you should have planned better, budgeted more, spent less, as if the game was ever fair. But look closer. Why is the average credit card limit higher than most people's savings? Why is interest compounding against you, but never in your favor? Why is bankruptcy harder than taking on debt? Because they want you inside, trapped, treading water, long enough to make you useful, but not dangerous. Governments play the same game. National debts swell into trillions, yet no one seems alarmed. Why? Because the system isn't afraid of debt. It runs on it. A world in debt is a world in motion, and motion, no matter how chaotic, is profitable. But debt isn't just economic. It becomes psychological. You don't just owe money, you owe sleep, presence, possibility. Every yes to credit is a no to freedom later. And slowly, invisibly, the debt rewrites your identity. You're no longer a citizen, you're a liability, a balance sheet. Your risk profile replaces your story. Your score defines your worth. And that number, that 3-digit code, starts to whisper louder than your voice. But here's the most dangerous part. Debt changes how you dream. You stop thinking about what-ifs and start calculating what muches. You stop imagining escape and start tolerating survival. And the longer you stay in the loop, the more reasonable the cage begins to feel. Because at some point, the walls don't even need to be locked. You stop trying the door. And that's when they know you're no longer in the trap. You are the trap. But the system has one more move, a final layer beneath the debt. And it's not about money. It's about something even more valuable, more addictive, more invisible. And that is what we reveal next. They got your time, they got your labor, they got your future through debt. But that wasn't enough. Because there's something more valuable than work, more addictive than money, more powerful than laws. Your attention. They don't want to control your body anymore. They want the cursor on your screen, the flicker in your eye, the split-second decision that shapes everything else. And here's the trick. They don't steal it. You give it away, one scroll at a time. Every platform is a casino, not designed to inform, but to hold, not to teach, but to trigger. Every ping is a micro gamble, every notification a baited hook. And the jackpot? Not money, not fame, it's predictability. Because if they can predict you, they can program you. What you buy, what you fear, what you vote, what you want before you even know it. The economy doesn't just want your labor anymore. It wants your mind, plugged in, reactive, and flooded with noise. And just like with money, they turn attention into debt. You wake up and check. Mid-meeting, you check. At dinner, you check. Before sleep, you check. Not because you're curious, but because you're chemically hooked. They've trained your brain to need stimulation the way your lungs need air. Stillness feels suffocating. Silence feels dangerous. Thinking feels optional. Because thought can't compete with infinite scroll. And here's the most dangerous part. This isn't entertainment, it's data extraction. And what they mine isn't just preferences, it's identity. The system feeds you content, then watches how long you stay, what you skip, what you repeat, what you can't look away from. And that becomes a profile, more detailed than any census, more intimate than any diary. You don't even know yourself that well, but they do. They use it to sell you, to divide you, to calm you, to provoke you. You're not just a user, you're the product, the raw material, the battery. And while you're busy reacting, you're not building, not questioning, not resisting. Because attention is the front door to belief, and belief controls behavior. So the one who controls your attention controls your life. You thought the system was about banks, about jobs, about numbers. But this is the final layer. Control the currency, control the time, control the mind. Now the loop is complete. And here's the final question they pray you never ask. What happens when millions of people stop watching what they're told to watch? What happens when the attention machine goes dark? That's when the real cracks begin to form. And the system, it starts to panic. You've seen the gears, the architecture, the trap. You watched the deals made in secret rooms, the promises buried under productivity, the freedom mortgaged by credit, and the mind pulled into machines designed to distract, to pacify, to own. Now comes the moment they count on you skipping, the choice. Most will keep moving, eyes down, notifications on, chasing goals they didn't choose, following paths they didn't question. But if you're still here, you're not most people. You don't owe the system your silence, or your time, or your belief. You've seen the exit, maybe just the outline, maybe just the cracks, but that's all it takes to start leaving. So if this video moved something in you, like it. And if you're staying for what comes next, subscribe. That's how we stay connected when the noise tries to bury the signal. Because the more eyes stay open, the less they can hide. And the quieter we become, the louder the system starts to break.